I'm only slightly exaggerating when I tell you I almost died. Let's talk about why I just fell off the face of the earth. My hair was falling out and turning gray. It got dark under this eye. It's a little better now. I had crazy brain fog. I felt like I was just gonna fall asleep all the time, to the point where I wondered if I was narcoleptic. I was sweating like crazy. I was stinky. Let me just say this. I've heard people say it, but I have now lived it. If you're healthy and nothing's wrong internally, you should not be stinky. Nothing coming out of your body should stink. I would just stare out of a window. I've always been type A, go-getter, high achiever. I didn't want to do anything. I just did not care. My skin was itching like crazy. I mean, I was scratching my skin all the time, but I had no rashes. I'm Spurgeon. I'm an actor. Over on this channel, we talk more about health and wellness, beauty, behind the scenes of being on camera. If your body's not working, you're not working. I found that out the hard way. And so I want to tell you, in case you're experiencing anything similar, two things, major things happened where I said, okay, something's got to give. The first one was that I had a callback for a Fortune 500 company. I thought I was going to pass out the entire time I was doing it. I was literally just trying to stand up. The second thing that happened that was crazy, I woke up in the middle of the night having a full-on hot flash. I'm not old enough now for that to be happening. I was not old enough then. This was like 2 or 3 years ago at this point. Let's talk about why I was not getting any answers from my regular physicians. Doctors are very specialized, so none of them were running the tests that I actually needed. And so all the tests they were getting looked okay. All of them said, your labs look fine. Maybe you're just getting older. Now, I knew something else was wrong, and I knew that I wasn't old enough to be having the symptoms that I was having. Quick disclaimer, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. I remember having one of those moments where I was just staring out the window and I couldn't care about anything. And I just started crying and I just prayed, please God, help me. I don't know what to do. I'm not getting any answers, but I know something is wrong. My whole personality was starting to change. In that moment, I remembered a podcast I'd heard with a doctor who mentioned a test that ended up being that first test in my road to recovery. This doctor that I heard on the podcast has a network of doctors he's trained. And I said, what do I have to lose? Literally nothing at this point. Now what I want to do is transition into the labs that I actually did have done that actually did give me some answers. And the very first test that I asked for, that I ordered, is something called a Dutch test. It stands for dried urine test for complete hormone. I think it's only been on the market since 2012 from what I can find. And this doctor I listened to stated this is literally the only test on the market that will in fact actually test all of your hormones. Something else he said that really surprised me was women, we don't have estrogen. We have estrogens. It is a classification for all the multiple estrogens we have. I didn't realize we had that many. I think he said up to at least 9 or 10 or more. Anyways, no one told me. That test showed me that not only were all of my reproductive hormones just totally in the tank, my dopamine was at like a 1. I guess 0 is the lowest. So that made sense about why I didn't care about anything anymore. You got to have some dopamine. It also very uniquely shows a chart for both your cortisol, stress hormone, and cortisone, which is an anti-inflammatory. Mine was through the roof. So the doctor I worked with said, okay, you definitely have an infection. So we knew something was up with my gut. So lab number 2, I was given the Immunolabs food allergy test. It tested both IgE and IgG. Now, IgE is like an immediate response. And the IgG, it could take up to 30 days to get out of your system. I was eating almost all of those foods every single day. So my gut was just constantly creating antibodies, not digesting my food well, and then sending it off to my liver. Side note, my liver getting backed up is why I was so itchy. All right, the third test, this one was super important, was the Genova GI effects with parasitology. It will show you your full microbiome, if you have infections in your gut, and if you have parasites. Now, I have got to tell you, I constantly hear people online saying everyone has parasites. The one thing my doctor said when we got this test back was, well, the good news is you don't have parasites. The bad news is literally everything else is messed up. I had 3 way out of control bacterial infections in my gut. When my doctor saw these, she said, hey, have you been exposed to black mold or mold of any kind? I want to tell you something the doctor said to me that I thought was insane, crazy pants. Let me know if you feel the same in the comments. So when she looked at my Dutch test, there was obviously stuff going on with my hormones. And she said, we're not going to address those first because hormonal issues are almost always secondary to an immune response that you're having either from allergies or infections. For me, I had both. When I told her about the hot flash I had, she said, get ready for this, that even if I was old enough to be menopausal, I should not be having hot flashes. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, the sweating and the hot flashes are your body's immune response. Or it's like a fever trying to get an infection out, which was true for me. She said, typically it's correlation, not causation. Do what you will with this information, okay? Maybe it is just because you're reaching that point in life, but I just want to let you know, if you don't think it's time for that, or even if it is, it might be worth just getting the labs to check, just to make sure. Just make sure. Be sure to subscribe in case I do a follow-up video. Let's talk about what seems to now in hindsight be the perfect storms that caused this crazy mess in the first place. My husband and I were moving around trying to figure out where we wanted to land, and we ended up in an apartment that was fairly nice. The shower grout and the toilet constantly had black mold in them. So I was cleaning the black mold in the bathroom, and I even felt like a weird sensation kind of in my nose and my eyes before, and I just thought, well, I'm wetting the black mold, so the spores probably aren't coming up. That's wrong. That's incorrect. That is incorrect. Anywho's, I thought, maybe I'll just have like something weird respiratory and it will go away. No, it will kill you. It will ruin your body. Because when my doctor asked, have you been exposed to black mold? It was because she said, we never see these three particular infections together at such a high rate unless they also have a positive mold test. Also, just before the mold got bad, I had a really, really bad case of the virus that must not be named. And I mean, it was bad. I was really sick for like 2 weeks. So my immune system was hit in a way that it never had been. So what did the start of recovery look like? First, I just simply stopped eating the foods that were on that list. And that helped alleviate some. That gave my liver a little bit of a break. Second, I talked to the doctor that I was working with. Okay, people are gonna freak out when I say this. I was skeptical about this at first, but it worked. My microbiome was so messed up. She said, we're not doing antibiotics. You can't handle it. And I had a bad reaction to antibiotics in my gut in the past. So she said, if it gets to the point where this isn't working and you have to do antibiotics, we'll do that. But we're actually going to try herbal tinctures. And I thought, again, wasn't getting any answers. What do I have to lose? Let's just try it. It could take 4 to 6 months. It took about 4 months, but it did work. I redid the Genova GI effects just to look for the bacteria. The bacteria are all gone. The labs that I'm getting are through a third-party lab. They have my labs on file, and then they send them to both me and to the doctor. So these are not being faked by some wacko doctor. I felt amazing for about a month after everything had cleared my system. And then I had a major setback. One day I was driving and I realized this is more than PMS. I just felt like I was crashing again, but I knew what symptoms to look for this time. And what I've heard anyway is that your immune system does not become resistant to mold like it does other illnesses. Got back in touch with the doctor and I said, hey, we never ran the mold and mycotoxin test. Can we please do that? So we ran that test and I had a little bit of a mycotoxin called MPA, but the one that was just off the charts was one called okra toxin A. Now there are two sources. One is mold and the other is coffee. I know. I just killed it. I'm so sorry. The problem is, unless it's certified mold-free, which most coffee shops don't sell, then you have no way of knowing if you're getting the okra toxin. Ultimately, I still needed to use a binder to get the okra toxin A out of my system. You can flush toxins out, you can flush heavy metals out, but your detox organs probably need help doing that because there's going to be an extra load on them. I highly, highly recommend you do work with a doctor that knows how to do this. I have takeaways from this whole shenanigans from this whole crazy situation. First, trust yourself. If you feel like something is wrong, especially if you're hearing that everything is okay, keep looking. Keep searching for answers. The doctor I worked with anyway actually helped me get to the root cause. And in hindsight, I can see, had I not gotten to the root cause, I probably would have been put on HRT and dopamine, even though that was not the underlying issue. I never would have found those infections. I think my liver probably would have just shut down. Second takeaway, you should not be tired all of the time, regardless of your age or how many kiddos you have. Now, there is a season for being tired. Like, you just had a kid, you were probably tired. But I just realized in all of this, like feeling tired like that and somebody saying, oh, it's just age, you're just getting older, that's because they probably have something wrong too. Honestly, if you've never had your stool tested, TMI, go do that. Third takeaway, I do not care how much anti-aging you do externally, okay? If you do not fix what's going on internally, like your skin's gonna get weird, please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I'm sure I forgot a detail. I've been dealing with this for like 5 years. I feel like 5 years my life got flushed down the toilet. The moldy toilet. Until next time, y'all be good. And I will see you in the next video.